First of all, I want to remind everybody that the Freeman community is in mourning right now. They have requested that unless they contact you, for you not to contact them. And I hope that you will obey those wishes. Yesterday we had a very tragic situation where one young man decided to walk into a school and shoot his classmates. This is a situation that plays out in our society way too often. And we as a society need to make a determination as to what's causing this. Because I can tell you that 35 years ago isn't that long ago, and we didn't do that. Where did we really go sideways in raising our kids? Perhaps we taught them to glorify the wrong things. All this violence they constantly consume has come home to pay a major price. It is time for each and every one of us to say no more to the hate that we see, to the violence that we see. We have now a culture where people think that they can dress in black and go out and commit all kinds of acts of violence in the name of trying to get their own way. That's not who we are, folks. It's not the way the system was designed. We deserve, as a society, and quite frankly, our kids deserve much better than we have given them. It's time for you to wake up. No more hatred, no more radicalized hate. None of this is going to make any sense because you can't make any sense of the senseless. And this is just senseless violence. That young man was carrying an AR-15 and a handgun. Thank God he had jammed that AR up so badly that it was not going to function. He transitioned to that pistol, and when one of the classmates that he knew came up to him and tried to talk him out of it, he put one round in his midsection and one round in his head. He then indiscriminately started firing, striking 3 other classmates, who thankfully are now recovering in the hospital. That young man who gave his life stepped into the breach that we as a society have created to save his fellow classmates. The next hero in this is the janitor, Joe Bowen. As soon as Joe saw the situation, the shooter luckily had ran out of ammunition, had thrown his pistol down, went like this, and Joe confronted him, ordered him to the ground, and then held him there. The school resource deputy was in the middle school, which is right across the street from the high school. He did what he was trained to do. He ran towards that gunfire, went into that school alone, and helped Joe take that suspect into custody. That school resource deputy and that school and that community have a special relationship, to the point that a few years ago, that community named a day after that deputy. They love each other, and that's the way it should be. Maybe that's what we need to teach our kids anymore. Some of that old school stuff, love one another. We now have a 15-year-old in Juvenile that will be going in front of a judge, and it's our intention to try him as an adult for premeditated murder. Because this young gentleman got sucked into a counterculture of violence. A culture that is enamored with school shooting. And media, you are to blame for that. Because you keep giving these people headlines. You keep using their names. You have made them heroes to some people. If I had my way, none of these people's name would ever be remembered. Sammy's name would be remembered. Joe's name might be remembered, but not this shooter's. Until we start treating these people for what they are, killers, not heroes, you're going to continue this violence. It needs to end. If we are going to have a peaceful society, you need to help us end this violence. To those in the political world, knock it off. Enough. Both the right and the left, you're both enamored by radicalized hate. You seem to hate everybody and everything. It's time for you to end that too. Because we, the American people, desire better than what you're giving us. And it's time we demand better from what you're giving us. We have a community that's in mourning. We still have a funeral to go to. This will be a long process. But I will tell you, if I could, I would have you all experience what that mother experienced yesterday, and what every police officer and every student and every parent experienced yesterday when she found out her son wasn't coming home. Because there's nothing like that scream. You will never forget it. I've heard it one too many times. My heart goes out to her because she lost her husband 3 months ago also. Half her family is now gone. Part because of senseless violence. If there's something you want to communicate to the American public, it's the true aftermath of these shootings, which is the victims, not the shooter. Maybe that's what you need to focus on, because maybe you'll influence the next kid that wants to do this when they see the carnage that they leave behind. Because that's what this is carnage. We do not deserve this as a nation, and it's time to put an end to it. Any questions?
You say this is happening far too common. Can you address some of the students' statements that some of the students made yesterday that he had put out, the shooter had given out notes saying that something bad was going to happen? He was on social media quite frequently. Kids seem to know that he played around with weapons. The boy who died said he thought, he always knew he was going to shoot up the school. The bus driver saw this bag, thought it was suspicious. I think it's a fair question. Were signals missed here?
They're always missed. You tell me one of these things that you've covered that you can't say that you always hear the same thing. You saw it coming. Here's a message to those who see it coming. You need to prevent that. Here's the problem though. We have made doing what is right wrong. Because the minute one of these kids goes in and says, Joey's going to do something, they get labeled what? A snitch. We have made doing what is right wrong. So we need to teach those kids that if you see something like this, we need to know. If you see something like this on Facebook or you see something like this on social media, let us know. We're not mind readers, folks. We need to know that before we can do anything. But at the same time, the system needs to allow us to do things.
They say they went to the school administrators. Do you know what, if anything, was done?
I have nothing to say about the school part of this because I haven't talked to the school. You'll have to talk to the school about that.
Were you guys ever notified?
We have no knowledge of this one. Quite frankly, this is another example of the mental health system in this country collapsing around our ears. And perhaps those elected officials that control those monies can funnel a little bit more to help these people out. because our mental health system is collapsing. Any questions about what the school did or didn't know, you'll have to ask them.
But do you feel like you should have known if they knew? Should you have known?
I would have loved to have known, because maybe we could have done something, but that's not a guarantee. Because what we have done, we've got a hold of mental health. And I don't blame the local mental health either. They don't have the money to deal with this because the state has abandoned them. They have pushed this problem to the local level, and the local levels are not equipped to deal with it. This is a state and national issue that they better wake up and start dealing with.
Talk a little bit about, in the affidavit there was mention of IEDs and a witness talked about that. You've been doing this for a very long time. Does it surprise you that a 15-year-old boy was playing with IEDs?
Not at all. You can find anything on the internet. And we forget, folks, it wasn't that long ago when 15-year-olds were actually considered men.
Have you since searched the home and found anything else of concern?
We've searched the home. We have evidence. We're not prepared to deal with that yet. So we'll update you on that as we go.
Do you
Haley?
have further details to parents in this community that are maybe nervous of course, what would you like to say to the parents?
As parents, I'll tell you, the parents at Freeman are great people. I had a chance to be with them all day yesterday. We talked. They were very patient. They allowed us to do our job, even though they were being slowly tortured, not knowing if that was their kid or not. I thank them for that. They are truly strong people. Tight-knit community, great community. For those of you in the greater Spokane area, when your kids come home tonight, I hope you give them a kiss, give them a hug, because they came home. There will be one young man that doesn't come home, ever again.
Do you have further details on how the shooter got a hold of a weapon like an AR-15?
Minors are not supposed to be in possession of a handgun until they're 21. You never know how people get a hold of weapons. Those are things that we'll be digging into and trying to figure out what exactly happened there. It's our understanding that there was a gun safe in the house. We'll have to figure it out and go from there. It's always going to be that way. As a parent, you need to take care of where you're going to store those things and how you trust people. We'll be looking into all angles of this.
Sure. Documents that said that the dad knew he had the combination to the gun safe.
All depends on the 15-year-old. I can tell you, folks, I carried a gun all my life. I hunted, I shot. My friends and I, it's hunting season back home. When I was in high school, every one of those rigs in the high school parking lot had a gun in the gun rack. Why? We went hunting on the way home. None of those guns ever walked into a school. None of those guns ever shot anybody. What's the difference? Did the gun change? Or did you as a society change? Now, I'll give you odds that it was you as a society, because you started glorifying cultures of violence. You glorified the gang culture. You glorified games that actually give you points for raping and killing people. Gun didn't change. We changed.
But is it illegal for a father to provide the code to a gun safe to a 15-year-old?
It's up to the father. There's no law in respect to that.
Can you elaborate on your statements yesterday about the bullying situation?
Mitch, I'm really trying to narrow that one down. We're getting some conflicting information on that. The more social media stuff we dig into, this looks more like this kid got enamored by the school shooting culture. We're still digging into that, but the more information we find, and you can find this, folks, all on the internet. You're as good as we are, if not better, pulling that stuff down. You know what you're starting to see.
So maybe a copycat type incident, or enamored with other similar situations?
Seems to be pointing in that direction.
Sheriff, can you clear up something about the timing? The affidavit mentioned a suicide note that was written a week ago. Do you know when that was left for someone to discover?
We have no idea yet. Again, those are bits and pieces we're still putting together. That search warrant was served last night. Detectives are still trying to make sense of all the things that they found there.
How many toll does this take on
These are things that we live with on a constant day-to-day basis. The toll that it takes on us, ask the deputy that stepped in my office 3 weeks ago and said, "Boss, I can't do it no more." And he's laying down 15 years of a career because he can't do it no more. Because of the violence that he's seeing, because of what is going on in this nation. And folks, when we start giving up, you're in trouble.
Sheriff, have you talked to Joe? I mean, obviously, people want to know more about the people that stepped in to help in the situation. People want to know about Joe, for example. Has Joe told you why exactly did he step in? Have you put his life on the line?
Those are rare people. And if you ask him, I'll bet you he can't tell you. You just do what you got to do. You step in front of the fire, you go towards the bullets, and you try to stop it. That's what he did. That janitors, there's a whole bunch of janitors who are in the United States military. There's a lot of courageous janitors. I have a lot of respect for the men and women that are just hard-working, everyday folk. And that's what he is. And he wants no recognition for what he did.
Was he in the military?
I believe so.
You mentioned the importance of honoring Joe, and then you said Sam, you know, has been holding off on naming him because
You all have his name. I'm not going to try to pull anything over your eyes. I'm not going to give you that name 100% because I still have things that I have to follow as far as state laws. But you all know his name, and that is the name that needs to go down as being a true hero. He was a hero.
I talked about mental health and the court document that says he was meeting with a school counselor for suicidal ideations. Hindsight's 20/20, obviously, but for mental health, I mean, do we need more of that in our schools? They have done more even?
Folks, you're going to find that I am very much not politically correct, and the older I get, the less my filter works. We have developed a system within our schools. Those teachers and those administrators and everything else are so handcuffed and so hamstrung that they can't deal with the issues that they need to deal with, because we have put in so many restrictions on their ability to control their classrooms, to keep people that shouldn't be in school out of school. Don't be blaming the schools for this. Be blaming yourselves. You're the ones that put the restrictions on them. Take a hard look at what you got, because we have some kids that are in need of some very severe help, and we as a society are not giving them that help. If anything, we're enabling them. So take a hard look at what you're seeing here. You're not going to hear me tap dance about this. You got a mess out there. We created it. You need to figure out how to fix it.
Sheriff, for communities that may deal with this in the future, what is your advice?
Train our kids to do the right thing rather than create a culture where if they try to do the right thing, they're chastised. If you see it, talk about it, but don't label them. And kids, if you see it, you need to speak up, because it may be your friend that you save. You can't be afraid of losing a friend, because you don't know how many friends it could cost you. But that is one of the things that we need to to definitely make sure our kids understand is it's okay to do the right thing. They're not a snitch. It's doing the right thing.
Sure. You mentioned it was premeditated. Did your officers search the house outside of what was good?
All indications are that we are heading towards that road, premeditated murder.
Finding any other weapons in the home?
You've seen what's out there. I think you can come to the conclusion that we came to very rapidly.
Did the bus driver say anything about the suspicious bag beforehand?
I have no idea, Haley, at this point. I wouldn't be blaming the school bus driver either because kids bring all kinds of things. I
Right.
mean, golf clubs, everything else. Bags are bags.
Is it believed the shooter had written a suicide note at some point? All this happened?
That's what I understand. Again, we just served that search warrant. Detectives are still putting all that together. Remember, folks, I still have an active investigation going on.
What's your understanding of the shooter's relationship with Sam? Were they friends, best friends, not friends?
It's kind of cloudy right now, but it appears that they knew each other fairly well.
Can you share with us at all what Joe Bowen said to you or said to your officers? It was just so heroic what he did.
I basically gave you what happened. You know, he confronted him, got him on the ground, held him on the ground. Our resource deputy, Deputy Nye, got there, and they both took him into custody.
Anything about what he said to you or your officers? Can you talk about that?
Not yet. Not yet.
I believe documents noted a white powder in the hallway. Do you know what that was found?
Not yet.
Sheriff, is Caleb under counseling here, therapy, suicide watch?
We're still trying to figure that out. Again, we're still putting a lot of this puzzle together. It's starting to fade towards the mental health issues.
Is he in isolation or in jail?
I don't think so.
Had he been diagnosed with anything mental health-wise?
I can't go there yet because I don't have that picture quite fully painted. Last question. Not only am I getting old, I'm getting deaf. I didn't hear that one.
The gunman reportedly has given notes.
We're in possession of a whole bunch of things. I'm not sure exactly the documents you're talking about. As the picture becomes clearer, we'll let you know. But you have pretty much the nuts and bolts of this one. We have another tragic situation where a young man decided to go and kill some of his friends. Why? Because we have a culture that said it's okay. And you need to start fixing that. Thank you very much.